What would you do if a killer strikes your small town? What happens when the turkey is not the only thing being carved up? How do you properly add up the clues to help save your friends and family? What is up, Nerdtectives? Welcome back to another episode of Nerds at Night. Shouts to everyone who keeps blowing up this channel and blowing up the horror murder mystery reviews. Y'all are truly the gift that keeps on Thanksgiving.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Alright, I'll lay off the puns for now, but in honor of November's most famous holiday, we are breaking down a newer addition to the modern slasher whodunit. Today, we are talking about the 2023 Eli Roth film. In similar fashion to our Scream breakdowns, I want to prepare you to be able to pick up all the clues the movie is giving you and help you to be able to solve who the killer is before all is revealed at the end, because
this year, there will be no leftovers!
Now, before we get started, yes, this movie was based on the trailer from the 2007 Grindhouse collaboration between Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino. Now that we got that out of the way, let's move on. Let's first talk about the type of murder mystery we have in front of us, because while we know Thanksgiving is heavy on the slash vibes, it is still indeed a murder mystery. The thing with slasher murder mysteries as compared to traditional murder mysteries are really two big differences. The first being the murder or murders themselves. See, in most murder mysteries, we know a murder or many murders will occur, but often they're done off screen. However, in slashers, the emphasis is the murder itself, so gore and creative kills get style points with the audience. The second point is the importance of clues. In traditional murder mysteries, clues are very ripe for the picking for those who are keen enough to pay attention to them all. However, in slasher murder mysteries, there are clues, but there are slightly less of them, and instead, visual aids added by the director are present to help us crack this case. Additionally, more time is spent on red herrings to throw off the audience time and time again of who the killer could be. The good side of the trade-off with slasher murder mysteries is even though we're given less clues, many of the red herrings get killed off, so then the game of whodunit starts to become easier until you're left with a small handful of characters, one of which statistically is always our killer.
Okay, you've been doing your homework there about.
So we know slasher murder mysteries are slightly different from traditional ones, and we know there are clues to be found. But how do we as Nerdtectives attempt to try and isolate these clues? Well, this is where we break out our handy-dandy rules for solving a murder mystery. And what are those rules, you might ask? Rule number 1, you gotta have suspects. Rule number 2, you gotta have clues. Rule number 3, you gotta have motivation. Rule number 4, you gotta have opportunity. And always rule number 5, you have to have red herrings. Now that we know the rules, let's dig into this movie and find every clue in Thanksgiving that this movie laid out in front of us to solve this mystery the whole time.
Thanksgiving is an institution.
So grab some turkey, grab a beer, grab a whiskey, and let us begin. Now, since this isn't a full movie recap and we are deep diving for clues, we're gonna start with the end of the movie. Then we're gonna recap the murders just in case it's been a while since you've seen it. So let's start with the big reveal. Spoiler alert in case you haven't seen this movie, because if you haven't, well, usually I'm upset, but I'm actually not since it's still kind of newish, so
I'll allow it.
But if that's the case, feel free to pause this, watch Thanksgiving, which is now on Hulu at the time of this recording, and come back. Now, for those of us who have seen it, let's dig in. Let's start with the reveal. We find out our killer is Sheriff Newland.
You should see the look of surprise on your face.
And his motivation is,
my wife left me and a man to put me back together. I loved her. She was gonna leave Mitch, but then you and your friends took her from me. You took my family from me.
So now that we know who did it, let's rewind a little bit and go through all the murders and John Carver attacks just so they're fresh on our minds. We first see our killer tagging Jessica and her friends on Instagram in an eerie post. He then stalks the group at a local diner. Next, he attacks Lizzie, the waitress at the diner, and truly embraces the spirit of Black Friday.
As I've demonstrated, I will cut absolutely anything in half for absolutely any reason.
After this, Jessica and her friends are tagged on Instagram by the killer yet again. He next interrupts Manny, the former security officer, and his plans to leave town.
I'm a security guard. I kill people every fucking day. Hey, I'm not scared of you, buddy. Don't f with me.
John Carver kills Manny, but he feeds the cat before he leaves, so he can't be that bad, right? The killer yet again tags Jessica in a shocking Instagram post. The killer next attacks Lonnie and Amy in brutal fashion. He next abducts Gabby and Evan and lures Jessica into a trap. She's too quick for all that nonsense, and in one of the most suspenseful scenes of the movie, hides from the killer in the cosmetology room. With the power of good hair products, she makes the great escape to the second half of the movie. The next we see of the killer, he darts the officer guarding Yulia and Yulia's father. He then attacks Yulia with corn holders while she's on FaceTime with with her boyfriend Scuba. Then during a tense standoff with Jessica and Scuba, he decides a table saw can help cut the tension. Next, in a bold move, he attacks the Thanksgiving mascot in broad daylight and kidnaps Jessica's family and Scuba. We next see the killer preparing Kathleen like one would a Thanksgiving turkey. Kathleen momentarily escapes and plays hide and go seek with the killer till she makes it upstairs. The killer ain't got time for foolishness though and finds Kathleen and places her in the oven. The killer then has our crew and Jessica's father over for dinner. He first offs Evan and partially explains the motivation, which is tied to the Black Friday incident from the year prior. Jess and Scuba end up escaping their rope restraints and attempt to flee from the nightmarish dinner. The killer chases after the duo and cuts Scuba on the arm and continues after Jessica in the woods. The killer chases hard and catches up to Jessica, but she escapes at the last second. Jessica makes it to civilization and finds Sheriff Newland laying in the street with the boo-boo on his head. She then sees someone going into the warehouse nearby. Jessica goes into the warehouse and we see the killer, and he reveals himself to be Bobby. Sheriff Newland comes to help Jessica, and after shooting at Bobby off screen, he calls for backup. The hunt for Bobby is on, and the police have yet to track him down. Detective Chu informs Jessica all survivors from the fake dinner, including her father, were found and are in the hospital doing okay. Sheriff Newland offers to take Jessica to the hospital, and Jessica says she just wants a second to catch her breath before they go. Sheriff Newland returns, and Jessica notices the sticker weed on his shoe, the same sticker weed from the woods Jessica was running through earlier that she was just picking off of her clothes. Once caught, Sheriff Newland reveals himself to be the killer. As he's about to kill Jessica, Bobby throws a hammer through the window and rescues her. Bobby and Jessica try to run away but are chased by the now axe-wielding sheriff. Bobby and Jessica manage to make it to Bobby's towing truck, but the sheriff ties the tow cable to the building. To solve the problem of the cable and the sheriff, Jessica uses a blunderbuss to blow up the inflatable turkey and the sheriff. This frees the cable, and Jessica and Bobby are finally able to escape and get medical treatment after the ordeal.
Tell Ryan he's still a dick, even if he's not the killer.
Now that we've recapped the attacks, let's take all the information that we know and look at the clues the movie laid out in front of us to solve this mystery the whole time. Let's start from the beginning and go through all the clues we could have missed. Our first clue is just from the first shot of the movie, we can tell who the killer is, especially if you're a true horror fan or film buff. You see, this shot is strikingly similar to the beginning of the original Halloween, in which we are given a POV of Michael Myers as a young child committing his first murder. Side note between you and me, while watching this movie for the first time, I figured out who the killer was going to be based on the similarity between shots. Our next set of clues comes from this first attack. You see, right before we get to the attack scene, we see the killer in his lair. We see he has a freeze frame of Lizzie from Evan's footage from the Black Friday incident. We'll come back to this freeze frame in a bit, I promise. Next, we see our killer is donning a John Carver mask to hide his face. If we remember earlier, masks were given out at the local diner, so we can imply our killer has been there before. Following that, we see the killer is attacking Lizzie as she's closing up, so we can tell the killer knows Lizzie's routine, or is at least familiar enough to know she would be alone while closing up. Being this familiar could imply our killer has been keeping a watchful eye on Lizzie, and doing it in a manner which was not alarming to other citizens, which means likely our killer is a member of this town. Our next few clues come at the police station. Now remember when I said I had a point to come back to? We see he has a freeze frame of Lizzie from Evan's footage from the Black Friday incident. We'll come back to this freeze frame in a bit, I promise. That's the one. Now if we notice in the police station, the same exact freeze frame of Lizzie is the same one the killer had pulled up. The next clue in this scene comes as the sheriff kicks out the detective and tells Jessica this.
So if you know something, anything that can help us with the information on that night, I promise I'll keep it between us.
We'll come back to this as well. Our next clue is a small visual clue in this scene.
This is new.
Yep, lots changed since you left.
We see a John Carver statue come into focus after focusing on the sheriff. At the time, we think it could be a coincidence, but in murder mysteries, we know there's no such thing as coincidence. This is a small clue indicating the sheriff is really embracing the spirit of John Carver. Gee, I wonder why that is. The next clue we should notice is the killer knows where Manny lives. You see, we're never told where Manny lives, and he's not exactly in the loop with our main core group. Logically, we could say he would have an address in his work file at Rightmart, but who else that we've met could find someone's address?
Good morning, Sheriff. You want the usual?
That's right. Cops, as we know, can look up people's addresses. Get a warrant if you don't believe me. Oh, Sheriff, you're looking mighty suspicious. Our next clue is quite telling in the moment and is especially noticeable once we know the reveal. Remember when I said we'd return to a point that I brought up earlier?
So if you know something, anything that can help us with the information on that night, I promise I'll keep it between us.
We'll come back to this as well. That's the one. You see, we know anything that Jessica tells the sheriff from this point on will be in private, strictly between them. This indeed comes into play when every additional name Jessica gives from the Black Friday incident begins to get offed except for Ryan.
Jessica, did Ryan ever mention to you that he knew Doug? Because that certainly wasn't in his statement. May not be anything to him.
Let's go through the list.
I know this kid, Lionel. He goes to our school. He's always the turkey in the parade.
Happy Thanksgiving!
I know that guy. He goes to Hanover South. I think his name is Larry or Lonnie or something. I mean, she's probably a cheerleader.
If we know Jessica is not the killer, who else would know this info? Well, Bobby is in the room as well, but Bobby seems to be more keen on duking it out with Ryan. Then we have Sheriff Newland, who we've seen with the creepy POV shot, was at the diner the masks were given out, and is trying to get more information under the table on the people involved in last year's Black Friday incident. Sheriff, you're making this too easy. In the next scene, we get an interesting clue. You see, we get a viewpoint of Evan in a very eerie way. We get a repeat of this shot once our core group is gathered in the cosmetology room. Even if this is not the killer's viewpoint in the moment, let's see who's standing outside of the cosmetology room. Turns out this is a very interesting visual clue, as this viewpoint is similar to the one from the beginning of the movie, and may be indicating to us the killer may be a police officer. For our next clue, as we see Lonnie and his girlfriend getting attacked, we need to ask who can access the rival high school without ringing alarms. We know it can't be someone from our core group because they have beef with Hanover and a fight is guaranteed to happen on site.
Fuck Hanover! Fuck Hanover! Fuck Hanover!
So we know our killer would need to be someone who could pass through the town and the high school without raising suspicion. If it's not someone in our core group, who could sneak around the town unnoticed?
Good morning, Sheriff. You want the usual?
2 cups today, Lizzie.
Our next set of clues comes in the scene where Evan and Gabby are abducted. You see, prior to the scene, we see the sheriff talking to Jessica and Gabby and then walks away. We then see Jessica looking out the window, and even though we see officers, we don't see the sheriff. I wonder where he went. This lines up as we see he's back once the attack is over. There's also this question.
Did you notice anything about it?
He was dressed as a pilgrim, and he had a John Carver mask on.
This may seem like an innocent question, but looking back, it's just the sheriff's way of making sure he's covering his tracks.
Okay, just think. It's about the details. Small mistakes, that's how they get caught.
Our next set of clues comes in the scene when Yulia is attacked. Clearly our killer knows where Yulia lives, but how? You see, so far we know 2 groups of people knows where she lives. Her friends who are going to her place, and the police who have posted an officer on duty. So far, if we know someone in her group of friends is not the killer, then the suspicion yet again points to our killer being a cop. Additionally, but not quite a clue, we can tell our killer is not out for extra credit kills as we see him simply darting the officer on duty and Yulia's father. This means he has a list and he's sticking to it. The next clue we get is in this scene.
Sheriff, is there a way to set a trap?
When the float returns to the warehouse, we can make it look like it's empty. Make him think there's an opportunity to strike.
We see a plan go down to potentially use Jessica and her family as bait to lure the killer to attack, but a few clues stick out. The first clue is where's the sheriff throughout the parade? We see many of our characters who planned the trap are accounted for, including the new deputy, but we never see the sheriff throughout the entirety of the parade. The next clue is how does the plan to catch the killer go? You see, we can deduce the plan failed because the killer was in on it all along. And the person that should be at the top of our suspect radar is the person who was at the plan meeting but clearly missing from the parade itself. Our next clue is a small clue, but we see our killer likes to think of himself as something of a cook. We see him cooking up some fresh cranberry sauce and is also particular with how he prepares Kathleen for the oven. Can we think of any other characters so far that mentioned they know their way around the kitchen?
I baked this for you. I couldn't eat it by myself. It'd just be too depressing.
Guy in a uniform who knows how to bake.
These next clues are subtle but are quite telling once you know the reveal. We see as the police have traced the signal of the killer's live stream to warehouses in Cordage Park. Additionally, we see as the sheriff directs the other deputies to take positions at spots across the city to spread out. However, notice this line.
We'll each take an exit. LaBelle, you take Water Street, Mayflower, I'll take Green and Union.
Why does this line matter? Well, it matters for 2 reasons. One, we notice the sheriff decides to take Green and Union, which as we notice on the map is actually the closest entry point to Pilgrim Memorial Park. In case you forgot, this is Pilgrim Memorial Park, the same park we later see our killer is headquartered out of. This now makes sense why the sheriff would want to cover the tunnel exit closest to the park, because he's the killer and has to return to his twisted Thanksgiving dinner all without getting caught by the other cops. This is even further hinted at as he is the officer in charge of stationing the other officers at other exits further away from the park. Our final clue is something we should have noticed all along about our killer's wardrobe. We notice our killer wears gloves, but who is also the only character we've seen repeatedly wear gloves.
Stay calm, please!
What happened? Is this killing connected to what happened at Rightmark?
Can we get this pushed back a little bit? Back here. This place is going to look empty, but I'm going to be here, and this whole place will be crawling with officers, okay?
While we notice the other officers are wearing gloves, we know they didn't have as much knowledge of people involved in the Black Friday incident from the year prior. And just when we think it's a coincidence the killer has gloves like the sheriff, notice this scene.
You should see the look of surprise on your face.
The sheriff had a clever plan going after the people he felt were directly responsible for killing his lover and unborn child. He was careful in his attacks and planned out a long game strategy to taunt Jessica and her friends until finally he was able to set up his own twisted version of Thanksgiving. For the sheriff, it was easy to get close to the victims given he had access to the resources of the sheriff's department at his disposal. And he could also throw other officers off of his scent by planting fake evidence, and also by directing the police force away from his actual hideout. His moves were calculated, but what he didn't plan for were the small details betraying him and giving him away before his plan for revenge was complete.
It's like fumbling on the 1-yard line. It's almost funny if you really think about it.
And that, my fellow Nerdtectives, were all the clues you missed in Thanksgiving.
Ladies and gentlemen, another satisfied customer. Jacob, get him a t-shirt.
How did y'all do finding the clues I mentioned? Were there some new ones that made you want to go back and watch this? Had you even watched this movie? Also, were there any clues you think I missed? Please let me know in the comments. This movie really is just a fun whodunit slasher, and I feel like Eli Roth made a very fun, cheesy horror film, so hopefully y'all enjoyed it as much as I did. Also, just a quick shout out to everyone watching, because as of recently, y'all helped get this channel to over 12K subs. And as usual, y'all leave me speechless. I appreciate it so much. Thank all of y'all. Thank y'all so much for all of this. Every like, every share, every comment counts. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. Also, if you're watching this and you're not already subscribed, here's a quick message for you. Feel free to also follow our team's other channels, including the Drunk Banthas and 9 Nerd Yards, which is the channel we started from as a team. Also, if you're still interneting after all that, you can follow me at Money Blake, whether on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. I would be super stoked to hear from all of y'all. Per usual, this has been another fun ride with y'all, but for now, I'm back to the Nerd Cave to continue to work on Scream 3. In the meantime, though, I want y'all to have an amazing Thanksgiving, however you choose to spend it, and just know I am definitely very thankful for each and every single one of y'all.
Well, from what I've been hearing about the turnout, it is going to be a very happy Thanksgiving.
So remember, whether it's morning, evening, afternoon, whatever time you want to listen to this, I do appreciate ya, and until the next case, I will see ya. Peace.